All right, hello. How's it going? Sorry for the late start today. Had some errands I needed to run. But we're here. Here with very, very chill music that we're gonna pause. Here we go. Oh, this is too close. Zoom out. There we go. Dehance. How's everyone doing today? Hey, smooth in a second. How was the windstorm up there last night? Down here it was wild. I just walked past a down power line. It took out a whole block of power, pretty much. It was pretty intense. Not as intense as some friends down in the wildfire zone in SoCal. They sent a picture at like 4 a.m. of like just a hill ablaze and was like, "Time to evac, I guess." It's like, "Eep." Wasn't bad at all up here, huh? I guess it dissipated. But yeah, it was crazy along the coast. All right. So we made a number of discoveries yesterday after a tremendous amount of relatively unnecessary uh, work, detective work. So we figured out how the tile map layers are being saved. It's down here. Down here. It's too far? No, it's not far enough. Excuse me. So we figured this out. I don't know why I'm not just uh, searching for it. I feel like I'm very close. Set tile map data. There we go. Oh man, I was like basically there. You just scroll just a little farther. So we figured out how they're doing it. This is get. I want set. Where's set? Oh no, this is set. This feels like get. It says set. Oh, we're extracting from an array and applying it. We want this one, I guess. Why did these work the opposite as I expect them to? Set gets and get sets. Oh well, works for us. Basically, we figured out the structure, which is the size of the struct. The size of a tile data is 12 bytes. Easy. And that's because it's storing 6 uint16s. Storing the XY position, the source ID, the X atlas coord, and the Y atlas coord, and the alt tile. And then there's a header, which is just 2 bytes, which is just the format. And I totally understand what this is, which is a little concerning. I guess we go look for this in the header file. But what we're doing today is a continuation of yesterday where we're going to be working on our auto tiling system. And we're working out a way so that we can figure out all of the tile data stuff and then basically send over a complete tile map data packed byte array, basically. So what we're interested in, we're interested in this. So it's an enum, tile map layer data format. There's 0 and there's max. And 0 equals 0. And we can presume max equals 1. What we should probably do is in case this ever changes, we should probably just store this once somewhere by calling into tile map layer and getting the tile map layer data format dot tile map layer data format max. Or we can just plug in a 1 and just assume nothing ever goes wrong. Hey, Cryoman, how's it going? Happy Wednesday. We're getting through the week. I'm just going to plug in the number 1 probably for now, unless I can figure out an easy way to grab this. So if we say, so who has access, who has access to a tile map layer? You probably can see a tile map layer. So if we say tile map layer dot, it's a lot of notifications. There isn't really anything. What do we call it? Tile map. Let's go look at this and see if we can get the format. I want to know the format. I want to see if we can get the format enum. Doesn't look like we can. That looks like it's an internal thing. In which case, I think we just have to just go for 1 and hope that it's okay. Hope that it works out. Hydrate. Oh, thanks for the hydrate. Smooth in a second. It's going good, but you just hit that one part on the elbow that just hurts, keeps hurting on and on. Oh yeah, this part. Is that the funny bone? It doesn't seem very funny. I don't know. I feel like there must be like a, I mean, I know there's like stuff there. There must be like a nerve cluster there that feels really weird. But yeah, it's weird when you hit that part and it's just bothers you for a while. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a way of directly accessing this enum. What if I search for format? No results. Yeah, whatever. We're just going to wing it. We're just going to plug in a 1 there at the header and hope that that always works. And someday we'll pay for that, but it's not going to be this day. Let me look at what tile map does, because I felt like tile map had more tile map layer data format. I felt like it had more enum values than just 2, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it has 4. It has 4 values. It has format 1, format 2, format 3, and format max. So I'm a little concerned that eventually they're going to add additional formats. I should try to understand what this means. So the default is 1, which is curious, not max. And there's no further references to it here. Oh, we're in the layer. Wait, what? Format 1 is not... Oh God, does this reference a different thing? I want to understand this a little better. Okay, there's no further references to this. This is the CPP file. Oh, let's go look in the H. It's using the tilemap data format, not the tilemap layer format. Very strange. Yeah, here's tilemap layer data format. Oh, is the max 1? Is that the deal? Is that the deal that tilemap layer data format? The max for tilemap layer is the value 1 for the tilemap data format. Is that what that means? Maybe. Yeah, we're just going to plug in 1 to that number. I don't want to think about this anymore. We'll figure that out. So we plug in 1 for the header, and then we plug in... Then it's like kind of like a dictionary. And so I guess there was one other question I have, which is like, can it be an arbitrary order? Like, can I place down tiles? Like, it doesn't matter what order they're placed in. Like, if I do this, I save this. We have a script right now that's adding 1. Yeah, it's setting cell 1, 1. Let's stop doing that for now. I'm just going to try setting one of these manually and then the other and see if it's order dependent. I don't think it should be. I think it shouldn't matter what order I place the tiles in. So if we place 1 at 1, 1 and then 1 at negative 1, 1. And we play. This should be 25 numbers. Oh, it's 20. It's be 26 because it's 12 bytes, and then 2 bytes. Yeah, okay. So we figured out the format. That's good. What are these numbers that are getting printed out? Printing the size somewhere. Line layer. Yeah, we're printing size. Let's get rid of that. Okay, we attached the script here, but we didn't do it in the scene. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this script. So now all I'm going to do to test this is place these down in the opposite order and see if they're being sorted or if they're just being left as is. That's what I'm curious about. That's my only real remaining question about this. Is can I just tack things onto the end? Because it seems to be acting as a kind of dictionary. Or do I need to sort these, basically, is my question. No, it can be in any order. I love this. I love this. So because the tilemap data can be sent in any order, we only have to send the diffs. Well, we have to be able to find them. So we would need to be able to send, like, add these, remove these. I mean, for now, we'll probably just send the whole thing because it's small. But eventually, if these get big, we could just send the changes. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay. I'm going to get rid of our tilemap layer detective for now because we don't need it. I'm pretty satisfied as far as this goes. I was thinking about encoding because we need to encode the uint16s. But what we could actually do is just reinterpret, basically. We could basically, if we're using, depending on how we declare the memory for this, but if we basically set it up as a buffer, like a static buffer, it's basically being stored in byte form, but we could cast it to uint16, operate on it, and then send it back in byte form. Kind of cool. So we don't actually have to worry about encoding and decoding. We can just cast, which is a little expensive, but if we're just doing it once when we operate on it, I don't think it's that expensive. So that's cool. Wrong file. Be right back, 1 second. Sorry about that. Cryoman, how's your project going? It's like second nature to put my headphones back on when I get to my desk, but I realize I don't need to do that because we're not listening to anything. All right, so let's start working on this process then. The simplest thing is to probably set up a hull system that does the hull calculation stuff, and then set up a tile system that does the Atlas chord stuff. But honestly, we could do that differently. We could have I think it's probably better because we actually want to calculate the hull for all tiles before we calculate the tiles themselves. So I think this naming convention is poor, but I know what it means, so whatever. It's going decent, you'd say. You're just having a little problem right now, but you're sure you'll manage to do it. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you'll manage to do it as well. All right, so the whole system runs. It's going to iterate over all of the blocks, and it's going to set up our tile data. How do we store that? The whole data. Do we store it per, we must store it per face. So we need to recalculate this in theory. Either we store it for all faces and just reference it, or we recalculate it every time the camera angle changes. It's one of those things, it's like, do you just cache everything or do you just recalculate? I think for now we're just going to recalculate, and if it becomes a problem, we'll start caching stuff. So in Godot, when we do that, we're doing that on each layer. The unfortunate thing is that each layer has its own way of doing this. So we have to decide how we want to organize that. Do we want to have like one buffer? It's basically choosing between an array of structs and a structure of arrays. Probably end up going structure of arrays because that's what we do for everything else. So we have the tile blocks, that's stored one per block, but this hull types deal, hull types. I want to look into this. Where is this stored? Hull types. It's stored on here somewhere. Does each layer keep its own copy? That's what I'm getting from this. Hull types dictionary. Yeah, okay. So basically each face, the X face, the Y face, and the Z face, for each type of block, like for now it's the bulk block and the deck block. It means they're each gonna have a buffer. That's gonna get expensive. But it's cheaper than storing all possible faces, at least. At least this time. For now, we're only gonna store irregular humans. Humans arriving. Red alert. Prepare to repel borders. Wow, look at those muscular calves. Those are incredible. Regular Human, Justice Leopard, Kaiwanauts, welcome in. Thanks for hanging out. How was the stream? How's your Wednesday? McTeebatel. Welcome in, everyone. How's it going? McTeebatel, thank you for the follow. Welcome in, people. We are working on an FTL-like in Godot. We're rewriting my auto tiler system right now so that it can work in C#. You had a good stream. You got a lot of stuff done. That's what we like to hear. That was not me yesterday. Yesterday I was doing detective work, trying to like reverse engineer the contents of like a byte array. I'm like, what's in here? Where's the header? How big is it? Where are the elements? And like we figured all that stuff out yesterday. So we're basically figuring out a way to manually fill in the tile map data pack byte array and then send it over in byte form. And we did it. So now we just need a system that will fill it. And there's a couple stages to that, so that's what we've been working on. Yeah, the MC could stand for anything. It could stand for Master of Ceremonies. It could indicate that they're Scots-Irish. There's really no way to know. I like the MC reading, personally. Excuse me. It's like really dry up here today. Having a lot of coughing. So The way we do this, our rendering system is per face. So instead of rendering a block, what our autotiler is doing is determining all of the individual faces to render. And that lets us do some snazzy stuff. You want to grab some food and lurk for a bit? Yeah, no worries. Understandable. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the lurk, and thanks for the raid. It's been a raid a day for me for the last few days. This is great. So we have a lot of stuff we need to recreate. I almost think I should open this file in Writer so that I can compare it a little more directly. But so there's some stuff that's commonly held. And there's stuff that's implementation specific. So the initial question I have is how we're going to organize this. We should probably do this as like one big buffer, but maybe not. But maybe. But also maybe not. If we're doing it as a span, it doesn't really matter the size of the buffer. I mean, there's some limitations, but do we split this up into multiple things or do we just keep it? Probably just keep it, because right now we have like a block buffer, and that's the buffer for all the block data. We probably should just associate a single hull buffer. I shouldn't call it hull in the long run. Should probably call it something else. But we're going to call it hull because that's what we refer to it as here. And it's basically our system for telling whether a block is like this light gray or this dark gray. Like what kind of material is it here? And we figure that out by association. So this side triangle is dark because there's like another block here. So there's like, it has another face pressing up against it. So it's sealed, which gives it this dark color. And that's nice for us for our visibility system. So like if we go into our autotiler here and we try to run it. So our autotiler here is doing all sorts of stuff. It's doing this outline adjustment. So it's adjusting the outlines. And then if we start throwing blocks down, you can see the colors change. So that's the whole calculator, the whole system at work. It's telling what kind of material a block is, or a tile face, because it's per face. So you can see all of these cutaway walls that are dark. And it's because they can tell that they're basically surrounded. So we need to store this information once per face, which means it has, and not only do we need to store it once per face, but we need to store it once per face per bulk and once per face per deck. So that's 6 times the memory storage of just the block buffer. Because the block buffer is just like, look at this section here. It's like there's a floor, there's a bulk, there's a deck, maybe there's a door, you know, whatever. So that system is figuring that stuff out. So that's a lot of memory, but I think it's fine. How many elements is that? So that's like for what we're doing right now, which is 15 by 15 by 5. So for 15 by 15 by 5, the block buffer has 1100 elements. So the whole buffer would have 6750. That's still a small number of things. And then each one of these ultimately stores, for the tile map data, each one of these stores 12 bytes. 80K for a tile map. A combined set of tile maps, that's not bad. We're in the trivial. We're in the trivial range here. Now, I don't think I should cache every single face from every side. I think we should absolutely just regenerate these as necessary at runtime. I think that is the move. And now I'm in the position of having to reverse engineer my own code here. It's not reverse engineering. I'm having to adapt it to a new environment. And I don't really remember how all of it works. And isn't that just the way? All right, so if we look at the floor layer, it does this whole hull type calculation. Maybe we should, that's what we should call it. Maybe we should call it the hull type instead of a hull system. And then we could call the tile side of it something else. Like the tile map system or the auto tile system. The auto tile system would depend on the hull type system. So what we would probably eventually do is have like an auto tile group just for organizational purposes, but we don't need to get into system groups yet. System groups are only if we start getting into dependency management stuff. So we're going to rename the hull system the hull type system. We're going to rename the tile system the auto tile system. System should still be fine. Yeah. Okay, so after we run all the input, we're going to run the, well, we shouldn't do this every frame. We should have some thing, we should have some way of determining whether this should run or not, but for now we're going to run it every frame because we don't care. But eventually we're going to have some kind of marker that we need to record somewhere. We'll figure out what that marker should be. Some kind of dirty flag somewhere. You will probably have maybe some kind of component. Ooh, is that how we do this? Is that how we do this? Do we do this instead of as a static buffer? Do we do them as entities? Is that the way to do it? And give each entity a buffer instead of having to store this all on one massive thing. Excuse me. And then so if we do that, if we have basically an entity, like we essentially do one entity per tile map layer, that could work. We could even then use component tags to figure out whether we want to update them or not. I don't like doing tags like that necessarily because it involves a lot of moving things between archetypes. So if we end up having a low enough number of them, I'll probably just have a bool on one component that's like dirty. It'll be like a dirty flag. If we get enough that there's too much overhead from processing every single entity, then we'll consider tagging them. But yeah, that's maybe how we should do this. So we need to make some components. So we have a block buffer. I should really call this block buffer comp or something like that, but it's very clear that it's an iBuffer component. And an iBuffer component is basically the component that associates us with a buffer in the buffer list, in the buffer repository, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to end up wanting something like a hull type buffer. Yeah. A hull type buffer is going to extend iBuffer component. No, not iBuffer, iBuffer component. I do need to look a bit more at those high performance community toolkit things. Implement missing members. Yeah, whatever. Buffer ID, length. Length is... okay, so we associate an AABB volume with the buffer. You know, is this even worth storing? Is this even worth storing, or should this just be generated at runtime? If we mark a buffer as having changed, should we just recalculate the whole thing from scratch and throw it over? Because the thing is, the tilemap data is a dictionary, so it only needs to include stuff that actually exists. It doesn't need to be like the block buffer is like a maximal volume kind of thing. Like it's just the full volume that we might be interested in ever. So there's nulls. There's basically null entries. But the tilemap one does not need a null entry. But is my system built to handle that? So when we do this in Godot, we ask what the ship hull.tile blocks. Do we ask if it has the tile blocks? So for each one, these are our absolute chords. And then we check our neighbors somewhere around here, right? Where do we do that? Our opposite coordinates here. We are checking our neighbors here. So where do we do this? Here we go. So if ship hull.tileblocks.has the opposite coordinates, then we do this. So we do stuff. So we don't presume that, so we are operating on a dictionary. So we could do the same thing here. We would just build the dictionary as we go, send it over, and then not store it because it's just rendering stuff. It's not determinate of anything. It's entirely based on the composition of the blocks. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's not store a buffer just to hold on to it. Eventually we might want to do that again. We need to have a performance profile before we actually make decisions like that. So instead, we're going to be just building the tile map stuff from scratch. We do need to hold it somewhere temporarily, but only if we do it in separate systems. And if the hull type system and the auto tile system always run in tandem, there's really no reason for them to be separate systems. They can just have a process loop where they go through everything once. They can just have multiple passes. They can just do 2 passes over this, arguably the same data. That's how I do it here, right? Yeah, I do all of the get hull type stuff. Then I set tile cells. Is that what this function is called? Well, we get set tile cell, reset tile IDs is this process here. Okay. So yeah, these always run in tandem. So I'm just going to put this in the same system. I like lightweight systems, but if two systems run in tandem, they should really be one system. I mean, it's fine if the data is being stored in such a way that it doesn't matter, but for us, we're building out dictionaries essentially. And then we're going to encode that in like a byte array. Okay. Cryoman, if I'm interested, you can try to send me the current version of your game in some way, like as the playable game. Yeah. If you're in the Discord, just share it in the Discord. There's a share your work channel. I would love to check it out. Okay, so this is going to be a bit different then. So we can get rid of this hull type system. Let's get rid of the references to it first. And then we have an auto tile system, which I guess I can just go back to calling tile system. What I'm going to eventually want is I want like a tile queue, like a tiles queue in the input, so we can determine whether we need to update tile map layers, and we can only update the ones that we need. But for now, we're just going to do it all the time because it doesn't matter. Go back to calling this tile system. I like nice short names. And so we can do all the tile stuff in here. So this is going to be a pretty heavy system probably, but that's fine. So you need some working memory. So you're going to need some dictionaries of the form. Maybe I should have a struct that I can process that can easily become the thing that we want to use. Question is, your Discord working right now? Like the app, program, whatever? Because yours isn't? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Mine seems to be. I'm on the desktop. Doesn't seem to be down. But, no rush. There's like links on the channel page for that. So you can share it whenever. All right. So let's think about this in stages. So we get the hull types for all of the tiles that we care about. Basically all the tiles for the set of blocks. So the first thing we're going to do in our tile system is we're going to get we're kind of cheating here because we're basically hard coding. Right now we're currently hard coding what I'm calling the construction entity, which is like the entity that we're using to like build out our block volume. It's kind of just a working space at the moment. Oh, hey, Ryson. No worries. Welcome in. You don't have to make excuses. This is all like voluntary in nature. Your game is too big to send in Discord directly. Oh, well, yeah, definitely don't do that, Cryoman. You need to host your game on itch or like GitHub so that people can play it or check out the source code or whatever. Yeah, you don't want to send over a whole game file. You need to host it in some third-party location. All right, so we'll grab this construction entity. I could say is if construction in progress is true, run the tile system. But the tile system is actually going to be running all the time. Anytime there's a tile change, I need to figure out a way to mark something as I got to figure out how I want to organize that. I don't necessarily want an entity for every tile map layer because I already have an entity for every ship. So maybe it just looks at the ship. Or maybe the ship has a component that keeps track of what's been, I don't know, whatever. We'll see. This is one of those things where it's like, it's probably super cheap to just recalculate everything at once. We probably don't care. So first thing let's do, I think we do this somewhere else. Where else do we do this? We do this in the tool system, don't we? So the tool system, yeah, so we can do the same thing here. Except we're going to get a read only instead of a read write. So whenever we try preview block or try reveal block, we do this. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna start by getting, so we need span. So we're gonna get the block buffer. We don't need this index concept. We get our block buffer. We want to read only. So this needs to be read only span. There we go. So we get a read only span buffer for the blocks. And this is what we're going to use. This is our equivalent of our ship hull.tile blocks, which here is a dictionary, but in our new system is an array or a span, whatever, same thing. You know, we'll probably do the tile stuff building with spans depending on how we get it back to the scene tree. Which I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm tired. Stayed up too late. So forget about this. So our block buffers AABB can tell us if we check. So what do we have in terms of our AABB? Excuse me. There we go. So we could. So it's bounds.z is the depth. Height or what have you. So bounds.z is our height. So we could use that to figure out how many layers we're dealing with, sort of. Right now we can just hard code it, but I'd rather not. We'd say something like variable layer count. Well, we'd say, oh, we can't call it deck count. We could call it level count. I don't like using the word level in a video game if I'm not referring to a scene. I guess what we would call it is area count. Omni Digital Tech, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Welcome into the channel. How's it going? Because we need to go per vertical layer that we have here. So for each of these grid layers, we have some set of tile map layers to deal with. Specifically, so a volume. Oh, I did make this 6. Why did I make this 6? I thought I had decided on 5. Oh, I think it's 5 practical layers, and then the fifth layer, or I guess the 0th layer is an extra thing. I remember how this works now. Raid. Hey, NanoDev. Did you come in with the irregular Human raid? Thanks again for the raid yesterday. Ryson, layer count? Well, that's the thing, is the layer count is this. The layer count is how many layers do we have per area. So we probably need an area count is probably what we should call it. I'm saying, so a ship consists of a volume, which is a 3-dimensional space. That volume has some number of areas. Here it's 6. So it's probably area count is probably what we would call that. And then lower down, we have a layer count. And this is something at the moment we just need to know. And if, in fact, we actually want to disregard some of these. So like line layer is an artifact of the build system. We don't actually want to write to this one. We only want to write to these. And we need to know, we basically need to know how to route these updates down. You assume so, you don't know? You're just riding the wave, huh? You're just surfing from channel to channel. Just hang loose. All right, that's pretty dope. Oh, hey, No Jewel. How's it going? That was a huge raid you brought me yesterday, Nano. That's impressive. Kind of wish I was working on more interesting stuff to show, but you know, c'est la vie. I could use indexing, and I could put the line layer on the bottom. So we could kind of cheat and just hard code it right now based on the child indexes. It's probably what I'm going to do for now because I don't want to think about it. And that way it works whether or not we have this line layer here. But eventually we'll need a system. We'll need a system of storing a reference to the node that stuff belongs to, that layers belong to. You have a very nice white rhombus. Thank you. Thank you, NanoDev. That's the guidelines that let us know where we can build at the moment. So for the moment, we're hard coding. So we can actually hard code the area count and the layer count as both it being 6, because we're not doing the doors right now. I'll need to do the doors separately. I'll need to think about how I'm going to do doors. So we're actually going to just have a const count equals 6. Const int count equals 6. Because the count is the same for either. We'll change that later. So in our buffer, well, we should probably read the buffer. What are we doing in the test system? What are we sending over? So we're sending it an AABB of max build volume Max build volume divided by 2. What? Oh, there's an offset, right. I forgot about the offset. So what's the utility max build volume? 15, 15, 6. Okay. So we can say zone count. Yeah, that's not terrible, Ryzen. To be clear, the latency isn't that bad. I'm just kind of zoning out a little bit. So we're going to say for area equals, for int variable area equals 0. Area is less than count, area plus plus. Should we do it this way or should we do it a different way? Let's do it this way. The other way we could do this, which is like the less insanely nested way, would be to just iterate through all the indexes in the buffer and then get the position from the index. I guess that's fine. What we're probably going to have here is like, we're probably going to have like a list. Probably going to have like a list of dictionaries, which is gross, but probably what we're going to do. We're going to have a dictionary of dictionaries. It's probably going to be this, actually. So the key is going to be, how are we going to do this? How are we going to organize this more specifically? Because the way we got away with this in Godot is we actually had a node per layer. So the nodes just stored everything themselves, and that's like pretty sweet. But now I need to just have a similar data structure. Excuse me. Probably have a key that's a vector too, where like one component is like its layer index, and then the other component is like its area index. Doesn't look like your Discord's gonna be working anytime soon. Oh, that sucks, Crowman. Well, if you get an itch or a GitHub or whatever up, you can just post the link if you're comfortable sharing it. But yeah, don't send a whole game project. Oh, I'll be happy to take a look at it. Let's see. Let us see. We have cross-cutting concerns here when we do this, right? Like the bulk layers, the floor layers reference the wall layers. That happens, right? Yeah, because we're actually just comparing blocks to other blocks. I love that. We iterate through every set of coords in the tile blocks. Okay, we store them in absolute form. That's like super important. Absolute is their actual positioning. Because the way we do this is we create kind of a layered structure. We have them offset like this. So each tile coord in each of these tile map layers has an absolute coordinate, which is like its coordinate just, in the context of this flat tile map organization. And then it has a relative coordinate, which considers its offset, because these are all offset, right? And that way it can tell, relatively where one tile is compared to the tile below it in another layer. So we have that. We have a process for that. So we want to be sure we're storing everything in absolute coordinates, because that's what we've got here. Okay. So we're going to need our absolute to relative and our relative to absolute conversion functions. Okay. And then we're going to go through, so we're going to go through every coordinate in the tile blocks. We have different branching structures depending on this is our flag. Oh shoot. So we need to go through every coordinate in the tile blocks per layer per area. Okay, so we do nest this a bit. So we do say something like for integer area equals 0, area is less than, area is less than count, area plus plus. So for each area, we go through this, and then for each layer in each area, we do it again, and then for variable, and then for, here we go, index equals 0, index is less than buffer dot length, index plus plus. Should we do buffer dot length, or should we just ask the comp? They both have a length thing. I guess it doesn't matter. They should match. This is a lot of looping we're doing here. It's kind of gross, but it's fine. It shouldn't matter. What will matter is when we start doing it where we say something out here of like for ship and we do each index of each layer of each area of each ship. But they're only going to be like a handful of ships, at most 2 or 3 ships getting this calculated at the same time. Mr. Condecua, how many episodes do you reckon for the game to release? Well, let's see. It's a reasonable question. So, because I got distracted and I didn't have the best schedule, and I did some game jams, we only ended up doing about 120 episodes last year. I think we started in February sometime, or maybe March. So we only did 120 episodes in the last year. I want to do 240 this year, which is twice as many, but that's 5 episodes a week for 48 weeks. So that gives me 4 weeks off, which I think is reasonable because I'm going to take 1 week for GDC. I'll probably take a week or 2 for like holidays or game jams or something like that. And, I might also just not stream every week. So we're probably not going to do 240, but that's my goal. So if we can average, let's trim it down and be a little more reasonable. Let's say we average about 200 episodes a year. I think this is probably like a 5 or 6 year project. So we'll probably still be working on this game at episode 1000, but it's going to be, in a much better shape. And it's one of those things where you, like, maybe we do early access or something, so we're in a kind of state of semi-release. So, I don't know. It's a good question. But at least 1000 would be my answer. It's a little concerning because we're already 100 in and we barely got anything except some tools built. So we got to kind of get our shit together here. But I say 1,000, it probably ends up being like at least 1,000, probably closer to 2,000. It says your game is a virus when you try to download it yourself. Yeah, that has to do with that. There's a number of reasons that could cause that. One would be if you just uploaded it as an executable, that's super suspicious. Another is that's just kind of how web browsers work nowadays. They're very suspicious of untrustworthy. And by untrustworthy, I mean unknown executables. Your Windows Defender will also be triggered because you're not code signing your application. Well, 1,000 means it will have lots of content. I hope so. I hope so. We're really deep. We've spent the whole first year prototyping and doing systems design and stuff like that. And like we're working on tools so that I can make the content. And if I do a good job making the tools, we will make all of this time back. I mean, you could say this is a lot of time to spend working on tools. It's like, yeah, but we're going to be making content for so long. We'll probably make the time back. But yeah, I'm excited for when I can go back to art and start doing writing and sound and do all of these other things that are involved in game development because we've been just programming for so long with almost nothing else going on. But I appreciate you hanging out and joining us on the journey here for however long. I hope you're having a great day. If you're working on anything, I would love to hear about it. All right, so for each index in the buffer, we're going to basically say, how do we do this? Do we reference the comp? Block buffer comp. So we say comp dot get position vector for the index. So we can get a position vector by plugging in the index, and that keeps us from having to do insane, like yet more, because we could easily have this loop be like 3 further levels of indentation if we then said for area, for layer, for z, for y, for x. But we're not going to do for z, for y, for x. We're just going to say vector 3i position. Well, maybe we say cell or block. I don't know. I guess we say position. Position is comp dot get position vector index. Oh, what does this return? A vector 3i or a vector 3i? Okay, it returns a vector 3i. I made my own vector 3i. Don't ask me why. A bear like lion. How do you change it, or do you just want to try to download it from the Git? Mm-hmm. I mean, the best thing you could do to get people to try your game would be to like host a web build on like itch or something. I really don't know how you're uploading this yourself. I feel like GitHub also has its own web upload system for web builds, because then no one needs to download anything, and you're honestly going to need to do that to like get to get pretty much anyone to play it. If you shared the Git repository for me, I would maybe be willing to try to build it myself and try it. I mean, if you got the itch page up, just send me the itch page and we can look at it. I'm usually very hesitant to download executables, but you've been in here for a while, so I could maybe make an exception. But yeah, if you can get a web build going, that's what you should really be trying to do. So we have our position. Based on the index. We're going to say comp.length. Actually, I guess we can say buffer.length. I guess it doesn't matter. So we get our position. We have our layer. We probably need to declare some things. We probably need to like, I'm still not sure how we're going to set up the, what really sucks is we have to do this twice. And we have to do the whole thing. We can't just do one step for each layer and then do the next step. We have to do the whole thing and then do it again. So I'm going to call this first pass to determine hull types. Yeah, I think people see episode 123 and they expect me to be a bit further along. The first 100 episodes were also a lot shorter. A lot of them were just like an hour and a half. Now we're averaging more like 3 hours a stream, which is a lot better. That's a lot better in terms of productivity. So the thing that we're saving here is this hull types thing. So hull types is the thing that we care about. We have, it should probably be an array. It should probably be like an array of dictionary. Is probably what it should be. What sucks is it's probably going to be an array of dictionary or something horrible. I want to avoid this because this is disgusting. I don't want to store it like this. No, Joel, we have a lot of cool DIY novel stuff, like your dimetric view and the system to build the ships. That takes time. Yeah, exactly. It does take time, and eventually this will be really interesting. So, yeah, I'm patient. I'm patient and I'm persistent, and I think that's what we just need to do is just work it out here. So we have the relative coordinates, and we have the op block for flag axis X, for flag axis Y. I'm trying to figure out the extent of the cross-cutting concerns for a given layer. So like this layer, so we're interested in the op block for these. Op block is this thing. So these are our neighbors. This is our positive X neighbor, our positive Y neighbor, and our positive Z neighbor. So we want to check our positive X neighbor, our positive Y neighbor. We're checking the whole block, huh? Okay, we use the whole block to determine this. We do some branching. So this is the branch that's just for if we're a top face, if we're a z-axis face. Otherwise, we just do this. So the process for a z face is significantly, man, this process is going to be slow the way I have this written. But it's fine. It's going to be on its own thread. It's only going to run sometimes. We'll probably can speed it up a lot once we understand how it's working. I don't like having like deeply nested collection types, so I don't want to do that. I'm just wondering if I need to have all of this information ready, and I think the answer is yes. So when we get to the atlas coord step, we reference our hull types, don't we? So our hull.layer. So where do we reference this hull types thing here? We do it here. What I'm trying to determine is whether we refer to, we definitely do refer to other areas and we definitely refer to other layers, which is the unfortunate thing. Like we check the area above us, sometimes we check the area below us, and we often check other layers. I think that's true. Maybe that's not true. No, there's no way we would be able to check the other layers, is there? How do we check? Oh, I think when we check the areas above or below us, we just recalculated ourselves. I don't think we're actually accessing the data from the other layers. So in that way, we could actually improve this because we have already pre-calculated that information. I think I'm recalculating some of this stuff because we don't have access to the data, because in Godot, it's in a separate node. Kondekua, oh, thanks for the follow on the Twitch side. Appreciate that. If there's a better phonetics pronunciation of your name, I appreciate any pointers. I'm sure I'm butchering it. Let me go to the wall and see if we're doing this differently here. Door access. Oh God, do we compare doors? Oof. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to allow that for now, but we'll eventually support that. So we write to the hull types in this step. We never read from this stuff. We're just writing it out. Here's some of the stuff where we're figuring out. So we're recalculating this stuff. So when we're evaluating the wall and what we're curious about the floor that's next to it. So we're curious about the floor. In these cases, we're curious about the floor that's in front of it. So we're checking a different layer, but when we do this, we're just recalculating it from the tile blocks so that we're not having to actually go get data from the other nodes. So, I mean, in that way, we could actually simplify this and not do that. We could just read the floor there. So I guess I should try to make these layers accessible to the other layers. And I need to make the areas accessible to the other areas because we are checking other areas sometimes. Okay. So that's fine. All right, you got your itch page up. Cool. So we just have an executable. Download this. We'll take a leap of faith. You take all my money, I'll be a little upset. Just kidding. What's flagging it as a virus? Looks like you embedded the PCK, which will flag some AV. Windows Smart Screen will always prompt for Godot EXEs because they are unsigned. Yeah. You're on Linux, so you're scanning the EXE first and then can try to boot it through Wine. Yeah, it looks like it's working for me. Ooh, I like the little cursor. All right, let's check this out. Oh, this is adorable. This little duck with a gun. I love this. Yeah, let's go through a little tutorial. To be fair, my browser did not warn me about the executable, so I think you might be having a browser-based issue. Control or space. Thank you for giving me options because my space bar is not on my left hand, which is a constant problem for me. Ooh, I love the little art. Is this like from a pack? It's really adorable. The little walk cycle's cute. Press E to spawn some enemies. Okay. Oh, let's check out their pathfinding. Oh, you got the pathfinding going. How'd you end up doing that? Oh, they're even, like, avoiding each other. I mean, maybe they're not avoiding each other. They probably just have a collision. A collider. Did you end up doing A-Star Grid 2D? Or did you end up doing a mesh-based solution? What if I let one of them hit me? It just takes a health point away. Super cute. Great start for a first thing. Love that. You did it with the navigation region. Oh yeah, okay. How easy was that? Because in my mind, just doing the A-Star Grid 2D thing would have been easier, but I've never done the navigation region stuff, and it's probably really easy. At least to do the simplest case. All right, how do I want to do this? How do I want to organize this data? Very easy, like you just followed a YouTube tutorial. It was like 6 lines of code. Sick. Character, enemy, and gun art are not yours. You'll have to read them at some point. No, they're nice. You also open sourced your shooter prototype today. Hoping it helps someone learn Godot. That's awesome, Bear Like Lion. Is it a little top? Is it a top down shooter like that, like a shmup? That's great. It's a 3D FPS. Oh, you should link that. Yeah, do it. Boomer shooter. I presume there's sound. So we've got control, shift, space. I can't jump, but all right, we got sound. I need to. There's a lot of sound. There's the sound. People should hear it now. Oh God. Sick. Oh my God. There's so many of them. This is fun. I lost. I died. That's pretty sweet. That's awesome that you open sourced it. Oh, you got the source code on GitHub there. That's cool. Nice. Do you need to do like any settings on the web build for it to work, or can you just give it a name and export it? Yeah, you just gotta make sure it's named index, and you just need that and like the WASM and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There's some tell itch to play the file in the browser. Yeah, there's a few little steps you got to take, but it's really straightforward most of the time, especially for 2D. I've had some problem with web builds in 3D. Like I've had some lighting problems, but 2D seems like has been trivial. All right, so I'm still a little annoyed and not quite sure how I want to do this. I need to store the hull type. The hull type is just an enum. I actually probably need to make these enums. So we're gonna have a hull enum. It's gonna have inner, outer, middle. I don't treat them as flags, so I don't need to do anything like that. We can just have, oops. We can have undefined inner, middle, and outer, all in null. I'm gonna need that. When you try to open the exported version directly, it says failed to fetch. I don't think you would open the exported version for a web build. It really has no utility outside of uploading it to a system that can run it like itch, or GitHub has a similar thing. Yeah. All right, we got bear like lion on the case here. I'm gonna not worry about it. Wait, Godot has a built-in HTTP server you can use in the editor? What? By the play button? Oh, the computer monitor thing? Oh, this thing. Remote debug. Oh, sick. Yeah, I haven't set any export presets, so it's not gonna let me, but that's pretty cool. I'm gonna do that when I'm jamming next time, so I'm not having to panicked, just unknown if my just submit my game jam without knowing if it's gonna work in the browser or not. That's cool. Yeah, Ryson. We're not doing an export. We're just I know how to do the export. We haven't done it because this game is literally never gonna run on a web browser. But yeah, it's just cool. I just didn't know that was a feature. Yeah, your last game jam game, you had a major performance issue at the end of the game in the web build. 2 hours before the deadline, testers were getting 5 FPS. Eep, you had to rewrite all the lighting last minute. Yeah, that was my problem. My last game jam I just don't have a web build for it, so no one played it, even though I think it's like my best game. It was very sad. The people that were willing to download it were like, "This is great," and I was like, "Well, no one will ever know." But thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. So, so our hull tile deal. So hull types is a dictionary with a coordinate key and an enum value. Should I do it as a dictionary or should I just do it as an array? I could do either. I guess it doesn't really matter. Because if I do it as a dictionary, I need to pay for the key, which is a vector 3. And so it's basically I'm paying for 4 ints because I have the vector 3 and I have the enum. But if I just do it as an array, I just need the enum and the key is implicit in the position. So if I feel like this is going to be, so I feel if the sparseness of it is going to be less than 25% or something like that, maybe it makes more sense to do a dictionary. But if I feel like most of these blocks are going to be occupied, there's really no reason not to do it as just an array, is there? Then I can just do it as an array of arrays. And I can just do a null check. And a null check is not worse than like a dictionary.has. It's probably better. Mini delivery works in wine. Oh, that makes me so happy. Yeah, no Linux export. I don't have a Linux machine set up. I'll make one so that I can support Linux a little better. It's hard to motivate myself to. The thing is, Linux users are like such power users that they usually just figure it out for you. You don't need one, in my opinion. You just do the export from Windows and hope for the best. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, so I'm thinking from a UI standpoint and I'm doing some work in terms of like inputs. I definitely want to support like Steam Deck, which I know is Linux. But it's Linux through like what is it called, like Proton or something like that. So it can just run a web build and I probably don't need to think about like is there any real benefit to trying to do a Linux build if you're targeting Steam Deck, or is it just gonna do they just figure it out for you? Proton is just a wine wrapper. Okay, so yeah. I'm not really concerned. It's a 2D game. It might take me 6 years to make, but it's still a small 2D game. Best to go native? Okay, well maybe I'll put some effort into that. All right. I'm gonna do these as arrays because then we're not resizing them and stuff. And for right now, we can have this stuff like statically declared. We don't really care. We don't need to reallocate and everything. So we're gonna say private whole. You like the game, but the pixel filter might be a little too strong. Text doesn't scale to a 4K monitor. That all sounds true. You got stuck inside of a building in mini delivery? I've never seen that. For now, just do the export from Windows, upload it, and let users tell you what's wrong. If you have a note saying it's untested, yeah, that's fair. Okay, that's all good to know. You know, maybe what we do, maybe we do have, maybe this, it's not the simplest way to do this, but maybe we do have layers as entities. Because if a layer is an entity, then what? Well, then we have to iterate each layer or each entity. I don't know. I don't want to do this big triple nested array. I don't want to do like a list of Hall. This is disgusting. Could put it all in one buffer. Actually, I guess that doesn't need to be anything. It just needs to be a single. I guess it could be its own buffer. It could be one of these. But it would have a fourth vector. It would be a vector 4 based. Because it would be, so area would be one dimension. That would be like W or something. Layer would be Z. I guess technically area would be Z. Layer would be W. And then it would have XY. That could work. That could work. And then we just have one buffer. And then we can use our buffer system and store it on the ship. Well, but then we're caching it, and we don't really want to do that. Well, maybe we do. Maybe we do want to cache it. Let's try that. Let's try that here, but let's just have one and let's not store it on anything. Let's just say public Hall. So let's just make an array of a Hall array. Halls. Call it Hall types. I don't know why it's doing that. So when we run this doesn't need to be public. So here we can say halls Hull types. The new hull. It's gonna be buffer dot length times count times count. Because you basically multiply it once per area and once per layer and once per area. So it's gonna be pretty big. So that's 15 times 15 times 6 times 6. Oh, we did this before. That's less than 10,000 elements. I don't think we care very much. We probably will make this just so we're not allocating this stuff all the time and so that we can cache results and only have to recalculate it, the whole thing sometimes. Probably do this differently. Or we'll look at how dense these end up being, and if they don't end up being very dense, we're just going to do a dictionary. And actually, the dictionary could be keyed by a vector 4. Because it could be the XY position of the buffer. Oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. So we don't iterate, we don't do an outer loop by area. Well, no, we do. But we don't do this. We don't actually want to iterate through every index in the buffer. We only want to use a subset. So index will actually be, so the starting index would be comp dot get position index for 0, 0, layer, vector 3i, new vector 3i. So we start at 0, 0 layer. We could probably declare this. Start equals new vector 3i, 0, 0, layer. We'd have end. It's not layer plus 1, it's well, it should be comp.bounds. Can we not access that? Oh, it's comp.aabb. Well, whatever. What we're gonna do is we're gonna say starts at 0 and we're gonna end at utility.max build volume.x. And we're gonna go to the utility.max build volume.y. Why use with expression to copy record? Why? Oh, utility.max build volume with z equals layer. That's so smart. I was like, what is going on here? Oh, did you get your web upload? Did you get your web build working? Look. Oh yeah, look at that. Nice. Now you can share it. Now you can share this widely because Now people will play it. That's great. Thanks, Bear Like Lion, for all the help. That's awesome. Glad you were able to figure it out. How many enemies can I spawn? Oh, so many enemies. Oh, but they can't leave here. They can't leave the... This must be the edge of the navigation region. I'm cheesing your game. I'm gonna get the high score. Oh, we're getting some fun, weird physics artifacts over there with the collision system because I'm spawning too many of them in. They cannot be contained. There's like some reverberations happening in the back there. Oh, I'm making it worse. Oh, and then it stopped. Oh no, it's getting really bad now. I'm not picking on your game. I'm just amused by Godot. All right, I think I've adequately broken that. I'm cheesing the tutorial test version of the game. Yeah, I am. And I'm doing it shamelessly. All right, so now we're just gonna iterate through a subset of the buffer. That's nice. That's a nice thing of my get position index function. So I can index a range of the buffer. So we're only gonna go through the portion for each layer. It's not stolen. Well, maybe it's stolen art. You should only use art packs that say like free to use or, free to use non-commercially or commercially or whatever, depending. So, yes. You should scrutinize the licensing agreements for art. There's so much free art out there. Even just using the itch asset store, which is like mostly free art, is easy to do. Can we make hull types? Should we just do this? Should we say like hull? Well, it doesn't matter. This is a really dumb way to do this, but this is what we're gonna do. So we can get the position if we need it. I don't even know if we need it. So we got the block for each of these. What's even in the block? Block. So a block has a form. It has a face, which I want to turn into an enum because this is taking up a lot of space. We'll do that. We'll do that soon. It's almost more of a normal than anything. It's not really a normal. I don't know what to call this except face. And we have a part, which is -1. So we're going to ignore the part stuff. Or we'll just initialize it to 0 for now, and then initialize it back to -1 later. Excuse me. You got to go now? Yeah, no worries. That's great. Glad you got that. I'm glad you got that working in web. Keep it up. Thanks for hanging out today. All right, so right now I think we're just going to be inquiring about the block form, really, and nothing else. So we have enough information here to start doing this. So if we go back to the Godot version of this stuff, this is the absolute coordinates of the tile block. This is maybe something I need to work around, because we're actually going to store the relative coordinates of the tile block. What do we use the absolute coordinates for? Just for lookups. So we declare it here, and then we don't use it? The viewing direction is crucial. We're going to need to start accounting for the viewing direction. But we don't need to do it right now, and it looks like we can do everything with relative coordinates. It looks like we don't actually need to. The only thing, we'll need to convert to absolute. When will we need to do that? Will we ever need to do that, or can we just use relative coordinates the whole time? How does this look when we go here? So when we have, so here your coordinates are 0, 0 here. If, well, let's see this somewhere else. Where's the star doc scene? Why did I close that? Here it is. So here's a scene where we just have raw offset tile map layers. So your 0, 0 coordinate is here. Your 0, 0 coordinate is here. Okay, so tile map layers use relative coordinates. Coordinates that are relative to their own origin. So I don't totally understand what my problem was earlier, where I was going back and forth between absolute and relative coordinates. I mean, it works, so I'm not going to question it. But we don't need to do it anymore, it seems, which is great. All right. So we should be able to start doing this. We're gonna say variable layer type is going to be layer type is layer less than 3, in which case it is going to be block dot. How do I have this organized? In the block area. The deck is first, so, and then the bulk. And then we have a door layer and a line layer. So we're only going to worry about the first 6, which is the floor and the wall, respectively. So we're going to say if the layer is less than 3, it's a block. I could say is layer, yeah, let's say less than 3. It's going to be a deck, or it's going to be block.bulk. So we're going to do that just so we know what we're talking about. Actually, I guess we need to do something. This is really stupid. I'm kind of going to be roughly hard coding this for a minute until we can figure this out. So we're going to say if layer is less than 3, we'll do some stuff. We're going to say layer type block.deck. So if layer is less than 3, we also need to record the dimensionality. So we're going to say switch layer. This is so stupid. Case 0. Actually, what we can do is say what do we call this? What did I call this down here? Axis. Okay. So we're going to say axis, layer, axis. We're going to call this layer form. So we're going to declare some values. We'll probably have a better way of defining this, but right now I'm going to define it just procedurally myself right here. Ryson, good news, you found that bug in Godot. The bad news is it's looking like a significant rewrite to the Atlas merge tool. Yeep. How does the bug express itself? Like, what are you trying to do that's like getting held up like that? I'm just curious. I don't do much Atlas merging. You think the person who did it just punted it? It's possible. I mean, the quality of a contributor is down to the individual, pretty much. Or the quality of a contribution is kind of down to the contributor. I mean, there's peer review and stuff, but like, there's so many contributions being made each version now. So if layer is less than 3, layer axis equals. Can I do something like this where can I say axis layer? You can't index into an enum, can you? Or do I say axis layer? Yeah, okay, so I can take an int and cast it to the enum. So that's easy. And then I would say layer form. No, layer form is just going to be block.forms.deck. else layer axis is convert layer divided by 2. The layer form is going to be bulk. And that will give us the correct layer axis and layer form as we're iterating through here. It crashes immediately. What, when you try to use this tool? It's not a roadblock for you, but it was just a bug you ran into and felt it was kind of trashy for it to tail. Completely face plants when you try to merge any any two tile sets that aren't default. Really? Huh. I might run into that at some point because I'm going to start procedurally building tile sets soon, I think. Because we need to start thinking about how we're going to structure these more advanced 3D shapes. And the advice that someone gave me was that if you're trying to break up something 3D like this into its 2D components, just accept that it's 3D and do something like this. Paint it in a way that you could procedurally split up the tiles. So I can look at this and I can say, you know, everything green belongs to like the Y face and needs to be a tile, and everything orange needs to be whatever. And I can use different colors for like the outlines if I want to do stuff like that. I'm not sure how I would say draw this without the outline or whatever. So I'm not quite sure about that because I have versions of this that wouldn't have the outline. It would be like a continuation. So I'm not quite sure how to implement this or how to implement a system that can take this and interpret it and turn it into a sprite sheet, but it's something I'm exploring for how to get these. The other thing I could do is just manually splice it up and lay out the tile sheets myself, but both seem like a significant amount of work. One has the potential of being less work later, but more work now, so I don't know. I'm starting to reach my limit in terms of like tools. In terms of tools I want to make right now. Watching these streams is making you want to extend Godot to have better isometric tile set features. It needs it. It does need it. I mean, yeah, the tile set, like an auto tiler or like better terrain stuff would be great because it's fine as far as like the tile set settings, as far as like the positioning and the logic of that stuff is all fine. Like the tile sets, like the isometric shape with like the diamond down and whatever, this all works fine. But yeah, if you're trying to do terrain sets and whatever, it doesn't seem to be very good. Oh, excuse me, I need a coffee or something. I'm just so tired. You have so many ideas. Like if, like instead of mirrored alternate tiles, you supply a flat straight on view of the wall and it automatically edits the pixels. Oh, shit. You're a genius. Is that how I want to do this, actually? I don't know if that would work, because this isn't perfect. Like, if I defined this orange shape to be, this is a wall under projection, and then I have, you know, that wall drawn flat, so you take this thing, and you basically draw, like, the same thing but flat. like this. And have it do the projection for me. That's kind of tempting. I don't think it would be perfect, but it wouldn't need to be perfect. It would just need to be good enough. It would fail when you start to try to, it would work for trivial cases or solid colors, but it would fail if you tried to start faking 3D stuff. Like if I made a panel on this that like jutted out from the wall, it would be really hard in my mind to like come up with the correct way of drawing that on here. But maybe that's just a failing of me as an artist and it's actually not a problem and would actually work. I'm gonna save this picture as a reminder of what maybe could be done. That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, you would need more than just it would be there. There are some issues that you would need to resolve because, like, I guess I'd need to stretch it up here, but there's like, well, in this case, it's pretty simple. I actually maybe sized this wrong. In some cases, it's simple, but in other cases, it doesn't seem quite as simple. Like, I guess I would just need to unwrap this, paint it, and then like wrap it back up essentially, but in like a sprite sheet form, which is kind of already what I'm doing, but without that translation step. I'm gonna think about that. I don't think that's what I'm gonna do, but it's a cool idea. Because I think I would rather, I think from an artist standpoint, I would rather draw in perspective. I still think I need maybe a system that can take this and build sprite sheets out of it. Unless I want to do it myself. But that would be a cool approach, what you're suggesting. I think that would be better for a more free-form camera system. My camera system is not that free-form. You wouldn't use it for things just jutting out of the wall. You've got this. All right, well, I look forward to see it in Godot 4.5. All right, so I should get back to work here. So we've got our layer form and our layer axis, which is what we need. That is the equivalent here of what we call dimension. So our dimension. Why do I treat this as a flag? Is it because I want to leave the opportunity for there to be more than one of these? I don't love that. That's not how I use this, right? Right now, axis is exclusive. I did that. I guess I did that in such a way in case I did have combined axes, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to think about that. Okay, so we have our dimension. I need to define some other things like this, like adjacent faces. This doesn't need to be a dictionary. This can just be an array, a multi-dimensional array. So adjacent faces. That can't be a constant. That in C# that would be a static. what's it going to be? It would be an array of vector 3i. All right, so we're adding in some static stuff that we need to refer to. This one's the last one. We do this. It's weird that this wants a type specification, considering I declare what this is. It's an array. It's a multi-dimensional array of vector 3i's, but whatever. Okay, so we got that. Ryson, things jetting out of the wall would be similar to how tile sets have rocks, trees, pots, etc. You'd supply smaller assets that are meant to be drawn over top the ground, but in this case, it's a wall. If the thing jutting out is a box enough, you could apply the isometric transform to it as well. Is boxy enough? Yeah, interesting. You could do that. Where I'm already applying so many different tile map layers. There needs to be a limit. But we are going to do stuff like that. Like a wall console would be its own sprite, and that will be rendered over a... It would probably be part of a tile map layer, but it would still be like a scene. Same thing with doors. That's what doors are. Doors exist in a tile map layer, but they're nodes. Because the doors have behavior, but you can still get them from the tile map. I love that you can put scenes in tile maps. It's like the best. All right, so we have adjacent faces. Now we need this other thing here. We need op block. Oh, this is really easy. Okay. I don't know why these are dictionaries. Probably because Godot doesn't have as good enum support. It was so close. It was so close to understanding my intention. Okay, so now you'll let me use a targeted type new, but only for a single non-nested array. Weird. Weird. We could change this. Simple enough. We can put this on one line. I think I would just rather have it be like this though. Yeah, that scene feature is pretty slick. It's much better now. It didn't work so hot with tile map, with the original tile map, because when you put a scene into a tile map layer, not a tile map layer as we know now, but like on the original tile map, you'd pick a layer and you'd put the scene collection in there. The scene collection did not respect the Z index of the layer you were putting into. But now that each tile map layer is its own node, it respects it because the Z indexing is like being enforced by like the tree structure of the node. It's pretty great. Pretty great. It just works a lot better now. I don't know why it didn't work before. It doesn't actually make a lot of sense, but it didn't, but now it does. Okay, so we have our op block, we have our adjacent faces. These are all indexed into by the axis enum, which just goes XYZ, XYZ. So we got those things. We have a Z facing. I don't know why we do it that way. I'll have to decide how I'm going to do the cutaway system, because the current way I'm doing the cutaway system is just by controlling the modulate. It's just modulating the cell. But that seems to be causing a tremendous number of warnings. These weird PLM errors that I'm getting seems to be correlated with that. So I'm going to do that initially, but I kind of want to move away from that. I kind of want to see if we can do it by using the same tile system. Use the tile system for a visibility pass, and doing the cutaway that way. So now we need to start actually going through. I don't have a ton of time today. It's probably got to be a shorter stream because I got some laundry to do. So the next thing that we need to do is start recreating all of this logic. Recreating the logic in the C# in the tile system here. It's set up to do it. Now we just need to go through each of the coordinates and set this info up. And then we'll do the same thing again probably for tile data, like atlas coords and stuff. Yeah, we'll probably set up atlas coords the same way. That should be good. Probably shouldn't get into that now because that's going to be a major undertaking here. That'll probably be the whole stream tomorrow. We'll probably just be adapting this existing code over. God forbid I'd try to rewrite any of it. Yeah, this part where we start, not sure about, I'm gonna have to reread a lot of this stuff. If Z coordinate, oh, this is the part where we, oh. So if we're a floor and where dimension is Z, we're gonna wanna look at the layer, at the area beneath us. So that'll be oh, this is gonna suck. Okay, that's fine. There's an argument to be made to make layers entities and to have systems that just handle each entity and operates on them uniformly and stores their data in like a buffer, and then have one system that goes through and figures it all out. But we're going to start by having a monolithic system that does it all, just in situ. And if we decide that that's really bad and dumb and we're doing a ton of conditional branching, we'll spin off the different components so that they can be processed more dedicated, a more isolated situation. But then they aren't going to really be able to reference each other. I guess they don't need to. There's such limited cross referencing that currently they just recalculate, which I think is fine. Rather than look stuff up, they just recalculate, and I think that's probably fine. Oh well, I'm rambling. I'm probably going to wrap it up here for today. A little bit of a shorter stream. I had to do some errands before we started streaming, and now I've got some chores, so unfortunate, but bro, you have no clue how I got so much done already while talking and streaming. You couldn't do it. I didn't do anything today, but thank you. Today was mostly chatting and thinking. Like, this is all we wrote today. This is nothing. But tomorrow should be a lot more productive. We're just going to dump the entire set of existing hull type and Atlas coords and stuff functionality. We're just going to dump all of this into our system. It's going to be gross. We'll start, once we see it all in one place, we'll be able to determine whether we want to separate things out. Because we could easily do that. We could have like a bulk layer X system that only processes the stuff for bulk layers X. And then that way there's no branching. It's just, you just process the entities that need that information. And that's okay. It would lead to more processing, but it would lead to much more efficient processing. So that might be the way to go. But it also might not matter. So I don't know. We'll have to see. You meant everything so far? Oh, okay. Yeah. To me, the streaming helps. To me, the streaming is what keeps me going. Like, I think it's really easy for me to not be productive and to just punt if I'm just working alone without the accountability of like a regular streaming schedule. So for me, it's been really helpful. I've obviously gotten lots of advice and lots of free troubleshooting and stuff. And having the outside perspective really helps too, obviously, especially when you're working on a really long solo project. Your enemy is your lack of perspective, because you're working on it for too long and you're doing it all by yourself. And so it's really easy to lose sight of what you're doing. So yeah, having people around is hugely helpful. So I really appreciate the small but passionate community that's starting to form around this this project. I'm not going to say game yet. It's not a game. It's not a game yet, but it's a project, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, I'm going to cue up the music here. Play a little chip tune. And yeah, yeah, I'm gonna head out. Yeah, lack of perspective is a huge problem, especially the longer you're working on something. But yeah, I'm gonna head out. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day here, and I hope I'll see you next time. We're still going. We'll be going through Saturday. We'll be streaming
Maximum warp.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Maximum warp. Exactly. Smooth in a second. Thank you. Until next time.